On a distant star system inhabited by intelligent beings with no concept of coffee or desire to taste it, there has long been an unofficial threat, Earth. Why a threat? Because their stellar archives, which were called the Galactic Library, and were a glowing cube, recorded one strange peculiarity: Earthlings are utterly incapable of appreciating the virtues of coffee itself. What a beverage it is, they said, just a hot liquid with an agonizing odor. We can't let this damned beverage be so popular. But there was one but. The same records in the archives claimed that something very special existed on Earth, and that something should change the mind of even the strictest taster. Finding themselves in the middle of an intergalactic congress discussing how to deal with the Earthlings, they suddenly learned of this secret. Their agents reported that the inhabitants of Earth don't just drink coffee, they love it. From small children to old people, everyone shared something unmistakable in common. What is it about this drink that makes them feel so alive? So wondered the conference. If this coffee is so great, why haven't we tried it until now? Exclaimed excitedly a representative of the not exactly friendly Froggle civilization. And since they loved everything unusual and strange, an order was sent to Earth. Straight to the source of this miraculous liquid, to see for himself if he could undermine the morale of the most powerful spaceplanet expert. At the moment when the alien ship landed on Earth, in the center of Moscow, by chance, apparently, the inhabitants of the city did not even notice that their lives had changed. Everything was as usual: car traffic, hustle and bustle, people in headphones and, of course, cafes on every corner. I think they'd be very surprised if we walked right into that cafe and asked them what they meant by coffee, said the commander of the alien ship, named Zork, who seemed already confident that his journey wouldn't be too stressful. So, Zork, Inpit and Rambro, actually, his crew, headed for the nearest cafe, having prepared some proper phrases in Russian, which they had carefully studied at their intergalactic university, Glow School. True, their knowledge of the language left much to be desired. "Hello, Earthlings. We're here for some coffee," Zork said in a distinct accent, pointing to the cup in the hands of one of the passers-by. The passerby paid no attention, thinking that they were overly eccentric tourists, and hesitantly moved on. "Please, could you provide us with the best samples of this coffee?" Inpit added, but no one heard. In short, the aliens still felt a little stumped, until they noticed a sign, "Coffee House Number 42, with a large logo and the words, "Best Coffee in Moscow." "This looks like it," Rambro summarized. Entering the cafe, the aliens were confronted with surprise from the barista, who had just noticed their strange appearance. "Hey, are you guys aliens? Or did I miss something in fashion?" he asked, pausing for a moment before getting back to work. His answer was simple: he took the billet and gave the aliens 3 cups of coffee. "Here, try some if you like something invigorating." The taste sensation was so unusual that Zork, Inpit and Rambro literally flew a couple of centimeters from their seats. "With a strong, strange flavor," Zork said. "But there's something about it. It's unreal," Inpit said, his antennae scratching with shock. "I didn't think such a thing was possible on a planet like Earth," Zork, struggling to get through the first few servings of coffee, pondered. He realized that he had never encountered such a mixture: a little bitterness, milk, and something so magical that it must be a new weapon for the Galactic Council. Coffee on Earth wasn't just a beverage. It was an alchemical elixir that could shatter the most arrogant thoughts that Earthlings were a weak and inappropriate species up for grabs. "This was not just coffee. This is magic," shouted Zork, waving the cup loudly. The pleasant but shocked silence that enveloped the cafe only confirmed that the aliens had hit the mark. Sure, I'll continue. Here's what happens next. Zork, Inpit and Rambro were sitting at a table in the cafe, curiously devouring cups of coffee when they noticed that their research had attracted attention. A couple sat at a neighboring table, eyeing them with interest. "Are you guys aliens?" the young man asked cautiously, clearly not realizing if they were joking with him or not. "We've come in peace to investigate a local beverage called coffee," Zork said seriously, already somewhat confident but still unsure of how to negotiate properly on Earth. He tried to remember the lectures from the Etiquette for Alien Ambassadors course, but all that came to mind was that coffee was something special. "Well, anyway, yes, we were just having coffee," the girl said, nodding at the cups. "So you want to know what's special about it?" "Yes, exactly. We're looking for the secret of this drink that apparently gives Earthlings incredible energy and joy. This could be the key to our next phase of research," Inpit replied, his voice sounding like he was preparing to give a scientific lecture. The young couple looked over at each other, a little confused. "Oh, it's just coffee. We all drink it here." The guy shrugged his shoulders. "What's the secret?" "Yeah, but what exactly makes it so special? Why do all Earth creatures drink it? Why does your world seem to live on coffee alone?" Zork tried to explain. The girl thought for a moment. "Well, I guess it's kind of a tradition, I don't know," she said, taking a sip from her cup. "You know, when you wake up in the morning, you can't go anywhere without coffee, no matter how you start the day. And actually, we're used to it, it tastes good and helps us to be awake. Well, if we want to do something with it, we just go to a cafe, take a cup and enjoy it. It's like, religion, I guess." "Religion?" Rambro asked in surprise. "So, all the inhabitants of the Earth worship this drink?" "Well, not exactly, but almost," she answered with a smile, pointing to the glass as if it were something sacrilegious. "We even have coffee-related holidays. One of them is called Coffee Day, and on that day everyone just pours cups like crazy. It's actually, like a tradition, you know." The aliens began to muddle their words, but their admiration for the astuteness of this mysterious planet only increased. Rambro, unable to stand, stood up and turned to the girl with confidence. "We need to know more. We need to understand how this drink works, and why it is so important to you. We need the recipe." The girl, a little surprised but rather cheered up, leaned forward and looked at their strange antennae in metal fingers. "Guys, if you want to know the secret to coffee, it's not the recipe, it's the soul. It's you have to love coffee to understand it. But if you want to try making it, well, I can show you something." As it turned out, the girl was not just a coffee drinker, but a professional barista. She led the aliens into the cafe's kitchen, where the real magic began. Zork, Inpit and Rambro watched with curiosity as she unwrapped coffee beans, roasted them, ground them, and then brewed it all in a huge coffee machine. "This is the same alchemy that turns ordinary beans into the beverage that connects us all," she said, as if revealing to them the secret of the universe. The aliens watched her every move intently, their eyes widening with admiration. They couldn't understand why Earth creatures could transform such ordinary things as water and coffee into something so magical. Zork picked up the cup and took a cautious sip. At that moment, something strange happened. He felt a rush of energy, as if every atom of his body had been energized. There was a clarity inside his head that he had never experienced before. Unbelievable! He exclaimed, looking back at his comrades. This should be our new strategy. Inpit and Rambro, tasting the coffee, began to take deep breaths and finally smiled. Everything they knew about space, about science, about technology, began to seem small and insignificant compared to what they had just experienced. This coffee wasn't just a drink. It was something more. It was art. We should share it with the rest of civilization, said Inpit with excitement in his voice. But first, we should probably try all kinds of coffee on Earth first. Like lattes, cappuccinos, mochas. Or frappuccinos. Zork looked at him and shook his head. No, we'll do something more important first. We must understand how this drink works on all levels. The research must continue. I propose we have a coffee marathon. We'll collect all the recipes, all the secrets, and the next time we return to our home planet, we'll have the power to help us turn the galaxy upside down. And just like that, with a cup of coffee in their hands, the aliens began a new stage of their journey on Earth, where every corner of the city was filled with the aroma of this wonderful drink, which overnight became their new, secret weapon, in intergalactic research. After a bit of hesitation, the aliens decided not just to stay in Moscow, but to go to other cities and find out what makes coffee so important to the entire planet. Zork, Inpit and Rambro took the train to St. Petersburg, not wanting to miss any coffee shops. On the road, they discussed strategy. I think if we collect enough data, we can create the perfect form of coffee to suit every living thing in the galaxy, Zork said, staring out the train window. Oddly enough, here on Earth, the drink is more than just a habit. It's a cult. Are you sure you want to do it with a weapon? Rambro asked. Isn't it too risky? Wouldn't it be better to leave it on Earth? What if we really alarm the locals? They might become addicted to coffee. It's not just a drink anymore, replied Zork. It's a philosophy. I'd wait until we've dealt with this Earth first, said Inpit, always more cautious and pragmatic. We've only just begun to explore. Who knows what will happen if suddenly everyone wants coffee? Suddenly they start taking over space, and then we'll all be canned for cappuccino? Have you seen how they turn liquid into foam? Rambro, like a true coffee fanatic, was already staring absent-mindedly at his glass of Americano, clearly savoring every sip. He was so involved in the process that he completely forgot about strategy. Yes, let's focus on the recipe for a peaceful existence, he said, patting the glass as if the drink were the greatest discovery in human history. I'm sure that if everyone drank coffee, we'd all become, well, at least happier. Finally, they arrived in St. Petersburg, a city that was famous not only for its historical monuments and architecture, but also for its coffee traditions. After walking along several central streets and passing more than a dozen cafes, they found themselves on Nevsky Prospect, a place where coffee was drunk like breathing. Zork, Inpit and Rambro, armed with coffee cups and prepared for a deeper exploration of the local coffee culture, walked into one of the most popular coffee shops in town. Hey, are you guys from another world? Addressed them by the barista, meeting their gaze full of surprise. Just now we met a whole group of tourists with different accents, and now you. What kind of stylish style do you have? Space travelers? Zork nodded, a little embarrassed. We're here to explore coffee, he said seriously, sensing that this moment could be crucial to their mission. We're from far away, and we'd like to learn how you Earthlings were able to incorporate coffee so seamlessly into your culture. The barista hesitated, taking a cup of coffee and taking a couple of breaths, savoring the aroma. Well, how can I tell you? It's just part of our lives. We don't give it a second thought that it might be something special. It's like air, oxygen. But if you want something cool and unusual, I can recommend our specialty drink, coffee on the bench. The aliens looked at each other with interest. Coffee on the bench? Is that something we should try? Inpit asked, immediately assuming an aggressive explorer stance. The barista explained that coffee on the bench is not just a drink, but a whole philosophical experience that is all about the place and the atmosphere. He explained that the best way to drink this coffee is outside, sitting on an old wooden bench, chatting with friends or just watching the city. Inspired by the new knowledge, the aliens decided to conduct their experiment right here. They joined the locals, sat down on a bench near the cafe, and, despite their unusual appearance, became part of the cityscape. Passers-by didn't pay much attention to them. It was no longer a surprise to see aliens with cups of coffee. "What do you think of coffee on the bench?" Rambro asked, leaning back on the bench and quietly sipping his drink. "I think this moment of oneness with Earth is worthy of our respect," Zork replied, his antennae vibrating slightly with deep realization. "I'm beginning to understand why this drink is so popular. It's not just coffee. It's a culture. It's a way of being in the here and now." At that moment, an old man who was also sitting on a bench with a cup of coffee approached them. He looked around at the aliens and asked, "I see you are not from here. What do you think of our planet?" Zork and his crew hesitated a bit, but answered that they were from far away and that they were researching coffee. The old man was not surprised and only nodded. "I see," he said, as if talking to ancient sages. "We all drink coffee because it's the only way to drown out the silence. All other matters of life are not so important. Coffee is not just a beverage, it's a unity with this world. Here, on this bench, you feel like you're part of something big. That's why I'm here." The aliens were silent as they absorbed this wisdom. They realized that learning about coffee had become something more important to them than just exploring the beverage. It was a whole philosophical journey that opened up a new way of looking at the universe. The Earthlings taught them to appreciate the moment and connect with the world around them. After a few days in St. Petersburg, the aliens decided it was time to move on. They had been on Earth long enough to realize that their mission was much more complex than just grabbing a coffee recipe. With each sip, with each conversation, they realized more and more that this drink was not just part of the culture, but part of the soul of the planet. But new ideas were already beginning to brew in their heads. How could they use coffee in other parts of the galaxy? How could they apply it to bring peace and harmony among different civilizations? The answer was simple. Zork sighed, placing the cup on the table. "We must bring it back to our planet. Coffee is our new tool of diplomacy. The next time we meet an alien race, we'll offer them a cup of coffee and they'll understand us. It's not just a beverage. It's a bridge between worlds." The aliens looked at each other excitedly. They knew they were part of something great. Zork raised his cup and said, "To coffee. To unity. To a future that begins with a sip." In that moment, they felt that the Earth, with its coffee traditions and philosophy, had opened up new horizons for them. Although their mission was not yet complete, they knew one thing: their journey had only just begun.